Hi, well this is a recording of what we did in the first part, well part of what we did in the first part of Thursday's online meeting. We worked through question 6.11. So I've got the data set up here. We've got all the sales figures for January, February, March, April, May, June. What you're asked to do is to prepare a production budget for February, March and April. So that's this first table that we've got here. Now, to do a production budget, what we've got to do is we've got to work out what our production requirements are. So the first thing we do is find out how many units we need to produce. So this is going to be based on our planned sales and what our desired ending inventory of units is. From our total units needed, we can then deduct our beginning inventory, and then that gives us our production requirements. So let's work out what our desired ending inventory is. And it says in the question that the entity tries to maintain an ending inventory of finished goods equal to the next 2 months of sales. So this enables them to have a buffer of sales. So a lot of organisations try to have, say, depending on their supplies, maybe just a week worth of ending inventory, up to 1, 2, 3, 4 months. It just depends on the turnaround of their production or their purchasing. Okay, so if the desired ending inventory is 2 months of the next sales, then what we've got here is February. So the 2 months of the next sales are March plus April. So that's 180. For March, it is April plus May. And for April, it is May plus June. Okay, so our planned sales, well, we know what our planned sales are. We've worked out how many we expect to sell each month. And that's one of the hardest things that a business has to do, is to work out what the sales are going to be. So we can now add these up to work out our total units that we need. And now it says our planned beginning inventory. Okay, well, the beginning inventory in February is going to be our ending inventory in January. So let's see what that's going to be. So let's work out January. So the desired ending inventory in January is going to be the 2 months of next 2 months' sales. So that's going to be February and March sales. So that's our beginning inventory in February. Now, I've put January over here. Normally it would be in a column here, but it's just showing you that we need to go back and look at January to work out what February is going to be. So our production requirements are simply the 270 minus the 190. So we're going to need to produce 80. So we can now work out what our planned beginning inventory for March is. So that's our ending inventory for February, and our planned beginning inventory for April is our ending inventory for March. So we can work that out. Okay, so there are our production requirements. Okay. Now let's see what we have to here. So the next thing is our direct materials unit forecast. We know that the finished product requires 3 units of raw material and 10 hours of direct labour. So to work out our desired ending inventory for our materials unit forecast, it's going to be 3 times 80, but we're also told we want to have an ending inventory of raw materials equal to half of the current month's usage. So the current month's usage is 3 times 80 divided by a half. So that gives us 120. And our usage is simply 3 times 80. So the total units we need is simply going to be an addition of those two. We need 360 units. And we can follow that right across for March, our desired ending inventory in materials. Now remember we've got 3 materials for each product. So it's going to be 3 times 30 divided by 2, because we only want the raw material equivalent to half of the current month's usage. And this is 3 times 30, which is 90, and we add these across. So we're going to need 135 units of raw material. And for April, we do this again. It is 3 times production requirements. Get that. And we've got to divide it by 2 because we only want half the raw materials that we need. And our planned usage is 3 times our production requirements. And we just add those up. Okay. So now we need to have our planned beginning inventory of materials for February. So we need to find out what our production requirements were for January. So let's work through this January column. So we know that the sales in January were 40. So we can add that up. And we know that the planned beginning inventory in January was the same as our ending inventory in December. And the ending inventory is the 2 months sales. So that's going to be January and, January and February sales. So our production requirements are going to be the total units needed minus the planned beginning inventory. So we're going to need to make 100. So our planned beginning inventory of materials is going to be 3 times our production requirements, because there are 3 items of material in each finished goods, divided by 2 because we only need half of that, so we've got 150. So our material acquisitions are 360 minus 150. So it gives us 210. Now, for March, we can work out what our planned beginning inventory is because it's our planned ending inventory for February. And we can just copy that across. So we only need to get in 15. And for April, our planned beginning inventory is March's ending inventory. We can just copy that formula across. So we need to get into 70 for April. Now, the next thing is the labour hours. We need to calculate the labour hours, and it's simply current production times 10, because there's 10 hours of direct labour in each item of production. So it's simply going to be 10 times 880, 10 times 30, and 10 times 70. Whoops, missed putting that. There we go. And they're our production requirements. So that's the direct labour hours budget. And obviously the next step would be to use your labour rate to work out how much it would cost for that. And obviously for the other ones, you'd need to work out your material costs to work out the cost of purchases. But that's question 611.